What's up, guys? Coming to you live from the in-laws. They are watching the World Cup in the next room, so if you randomly hear some cheering or screaming or booing, you know why. But I wanted to hop on here because my boy Ruslan was on Adam 22's No Jumper podcast, and in it he was debating an atheist, but there really wasn't too much debate, but it was a really good conversation, and all the... See? And although there's a lot of stuff in it that I could comment on, there was one part that I was just blown away by. And it was the discussion on the issue of abortion between this guy, Destiny, and Ruslan. Destiny being an atheist and Ruslan obviously being a Christian. And the L that this Destiny guy took was just, I felt bad for him. So what we're going to do is watch the clip. I'm going to comment on it as we go, and we're going to break this thing down. Oh, by the way, like, share, subscribe, all that good YouTube stuff.
I think ultimately, at the end of the day, when I'm having a conversation with somebody, I want to feel like two reasonable minds ought to be able to agree on a perspective, or at least understand a perspective, if not agree on one. The problem I have with religion is that fundamentally, two people of different religious sects are not going to be able to have agreements on moral issues because the way that they generate those moral truths are fundamentally different.
So yes, I would agree on that, but this is negating how these two religious people would come to the conclusion that their religion is true or not. So if the religion is true, it's the true worldview, then basing your morality on it would be the objectively correct thing to do. So it's not necessarily about them not being able to agree. It's assuming that both of the religions are false from the jump, and that there's obviously no reasonable reason to believe in either of them.
Whereas if I have like secular people that are arguing amongst like ethical propositions or whatever, I can try to get them on the same page because they'll be coming from secular backgrounds and they can have a debate on those fundamental, axioms where their ethical systems come from.
I would say it's a big assumption.
Right, I could say that, murder is bad. You gave a consequentialist framework, utilitarianism. You gave that as an example. But, right, two people might say, like, well, murder is bad because in a society where murder is allowed, we create for a worse society because everybody's scared of, killing each other and all that or dying, And I could get two secular people to have an argument about that and roughly agree because they're coming from the same place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but the question would still be, why is murder wrong? Why is it objectively wrong? You guys can come to an agreement that it's wrong, but why is that? It's just you guys coming to an agreement.
Whereas two people from different religious backgrounds, if one says, oh, well, my religion says I'm supposed to kill these types of people, and the other guy says, well, my religion says I'm supposed to kill these types of people. Okay, well, let's argue. Okay, well, my God said that. Well, my God said this. The argument's kind of over. So the incommensurability, the non-compatibility of two different religious people to argue and settle disputes, in my mind, is a major fault with supernatural belief systems.
But how do you even trust your own thoughts if you view the world from an atheistic perspective, meaning all that exists is the natural world? So that means that like consciousness doesn't really exist. It's just an illusion. So we're not even really thinking. We're just responding to neurons firing in our brains. So, he's saying, oh, in his mind, I feel this way, but what about somebody else's mind who is hardwired to think differently than you? Neither of you would be correct.
Because at the end of the day, we're appealing to something that is ultimately unknowable, ultimately unfalsifiable, but causes real-world disagreements in terms of how we treat people, and there's no way to reconcile those beliefs besides killing everybody that believes the other thing.
Yeah, but that's not New Testament followers of Jesus, right? They're not prescribing to kill anybody. So if we're looking at the New Testament prescriptions of how one is to live, they reflect what you're talking about when secular folks disagree on murder.
Sure, that's true, but I mean, like, ultimately, at the end of the day, in any society, my opinion is the legal system is going to be the codified version of the ethics of a certain group of people. Collective ethics are going to be codified in law to some size, shape, or form. So, like, in more extreme, like, Muslim communities, you see things, Sharia law, or actually codified into their actual law, like gay relationships are illegal, or adultery is illegal. You can get punished by death for these. I don't see any reason why a Christian society wouldn't necessarily follow similar things where certain people are ostracized from society or given some sort of punishment for being gay or practicing gayness or being an adulterer.
How's that any different than the laws today? All of these laws are voted on by people who are living in the society. So if majority rules, but you disagree with what the majority says, then according to your own worldview, you would be the one that is incorrect because you are not in alignment with the rest of society.
Yeah, but you said the collective society and the legality of things determines whether something is right or wrong. We would totally say Jim Crow was wrong in the 60s. It's wrong today. Slavery was wrong 400 years ago. It's wrong today. It is absolutely universally wrong to own people, period. To kidnap and own people is wrong.
But how do you feel?
Regardless on if the society
But
is
I'm
cool
saying, like,
with
let's
it.
say that society was like 99% Christian, and somebody's like, well, we need to make a law so that you get fined every time you get caught having gay sex. Like, I could see a lot of people like, yeah, that sounds fair.
And what about?
I don't know how you went to that. I mean, we're talking about
Oh,
slavery.
no, I'm
and
just saying.
Jim
I was
Crow.
saying that collectively, if you had 99%.
It's always the gay
What's
thing.
really on your mind?
Well, because Jim Crow is an easy gimme because everybody thinks that slavery is wrong.
Yeah.
But nobody's fighting with Christians today about enslaving black people. We're fighting over things like abortion or gay marriage. Those are the things that we're
But
fighting.
on top of that, there's also globalization, which was done under the veil of Christianity, which
I don't know what that guy's talking about, but he's missing what he's saying. Back then, people did not view Jim Crow as wrong. Back then, people did not view slavery as wrong. It was just part of the society. And what, the pro-life position is that, hey, even though societally we think this is okay, it's really not. It's wrong. So his own reasoning kind of debunks his own reasons.
Sure, I mean, colonial, fuck all that. I'm saying we have modern debates right now that the difference in opinion stems from a theological background, which is necessarily unassailable. I can't argue. If I want to have a conversation about abortion, a guy's like, oh, I'm Christian. Oh, well, fuck me. The discussion is over. I can't say anything to move that person.
Do
to
you
that
think
position.
somebody can have a pro-life position without bringing God into it?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think a person that has brought God in, but a person with a pro-life position that hasn't brought God into it could be argued to a pro-choice position. Same thing, a pro-choice person without God could be argued to a pro-life position. But if they have God, the fixation there that is going to cause in my opinion, a static grounding for the morals, such that you're not going to be able to convince them. Because if I argue with somebody, it's like, oh, why are you pro-life? I'm like, well, I believe that humanity begins at the moment of conception, and that's my secular background. Oh, cool, let's have a conversation about that. But if somebody says, oh, I'm religious, oh, the conversation's over. I'm never changing your opinion.
I think ending and murdering and ending a human life is wrong. Abortion ends a human life. Therefore, abortion is wrong. I don't think that's a very... You
Sure,
need
but if
God
you get
to do
that from a secular point of view, I can argue with you over when that moment of human life begins.
I mean, biology says it begins at conception. There's unique DNA the moment the sperm and the egg touch.
Yeah, but biology doesn't give us the moral consideration for a person.
Well, because you're saying morality is coming from the social consensus, and I'm saying morality exists outside of the social consensus.
Yeah, but your
Morality
grounding
is
for that morality, I can't argue with you because you believe in God. I can never convince you otherwise. You have your set of beliefs, and that's never going to change.
My set of beliefs, though, is based on what is a human with unique DNA, right? So again, I'm saying we could remove God from it, and I'll say, that's a human with DNA, and it's going to grow into a bigger human.
Well,
Let's
it's
just-
a zygote.
I understand. I
It's a
understand.
zygote.
I understand.
It's a zygote,
I-
and so a 25-year-old is not less, is not more valuable than a 15-year-old, and a 15-year-old is not more
Yeah, but a
valuable than
20
a 1-year-old.
a 25-year-old
and a 1-year-old is not more valuable than a 3-week, 4-week, 5-week fetus.
But it's about when you give the DNA like more consideration. When is it a person?
Sorry, I just got to pause it there. He's saying it's about when you give the DNA its value, meaning that is subjective. Subjective. That means that anybody can have a different opinion on when the DNA is valuable. And the pro-life argument is that it's not just DNA, that DNA is a human being, a unique human being. So therefore, it is intrinsically valuable. That is life, and that's what science says. And at no matter what point you stop that life from progressing in its growth, it's considered murder because it's taking of an innocent life. But anyway, I'm sorry.
Because a 25-year-old corpse, you wouldn't give any rights to.
Sure.
But it's a human with DNA.
Okay.
That's because a 25-year-old corpse, listen to what he's saying, a corpse. So if you just leave a corpse, what's going to happen? It's going to stay dead, right? But if you just leave a fetus, what's going to happen? It's going to turn into a fully formed human being if left uninterrupted.
So
they're dead, right?
you got a heartbeat at 5 weeks. You got 10 fingers, 10 toes at 7 weeks. The eyeballs are formed. I mean, have
Some
you
children
ever
are
have you ever
born-
seen a procedure of an abortion at 12 weeks, 11 weeks?
Nope, but I don't care. I probably have.
I would encourage everyone who's pro-choice to go look it up.
That has no bearing on the argument whatsoever.
He says he don't care, right? So he's saying, oh yeah, you're religious, so your position can't be moved. And his position can be moved off of evidence, but here Ruslan is saying, hey, have you ever even witnessed an abortion? And he's like, no, I haven't. and he doesn't care. So he doesn't even want to look at the evidence, because if you look at the evidence, if you watch, especially what like a second trimester abortion, third trimester abortion looks like, it's very difficult to maintain the position that that is not a baby being ripped out of the womb. So to say like, oh no, I don't care, that shows that he's the one with an immovable position. And he'll disagree as he does in a little bit, but you get what I'm saying.
Because it's a human in there. That's the point, though.
Yeah, but the question isn't whether it's a human. The question is whether it's a life worth considering. That's the question, right? Again, a corpse is human, but we don't protect corpses because we're protecting human life.
Okay, because there's no life in the corpse.
Exactly.
The baby has life.
So, but we don't. But that's the question. The question is, what is the life?
I don't think it's a question. I think
It
it's
is a
fact.
question.
How is it a question? If someone has brain waves, if someone has 10 fingers, 10
Well,
toes,
so careful, because now you just said brain waves,
Yeah.
right? So are you okay with abortion at 1 or 2 weeks?
am I okay with? No, I'm not okay with any abortion.
Okay, so so the brainwave thing wasn't true. When you said 10 toes, if a baby has 8 toes, it's still a human, right?
Sure.
So that part's not true, right?
Sure. I'm
You
saying
said-
what I'm saying is right now we have the most liberal laws, more liberal than the EU. Okay, abortion has a hard cutoff in most of Europe at like 12 weeks.
Yeah, none of this has anything to do with what I'm talking about. I'm
Okay,
just
no,
saying
no, no.
that-
But what I'm saying is that's way more conservative than what we fought here
That's
for.
true, but it
Okay?
also has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. I was just saying that your idea of abortion and the foundation for that idea is a religious one, and that is an unshakable foundation. There is no argument that could ever, like if I were to ask you right now, could I give you any argument that would persuade you that abortion is okay?
No, you're not going to get
Exactly.
But that's because I've been on both sides and I've wrestled through it and I've thought about it and I've watched debates and I've heard the best of the best arguments.
That's fine. You
and
can
I'm
say
still
that.
convinced that that's a human in there. And if you leave it untouched, if you don't do anything to that, that is going to grow into a full-grown human.
And that's fine. But I'm just saying that what you just said was there's no disagreement to be had. There's no argument to be had.
Yes,
there, right?
but that's irrelevant of whether or not I believe Jesus is the Son of God and bodily rose from
No,
the
but the
grave.
foundation is a theological one.
The
Like, if I
foundation
ask
is
you-
a DNA one.
Well, the foundation is theological from where your anti-abortion beliefs come from.
He's making a straw man of Ruslan's position. It's a 100% straw man. Ruslan says, hey, this is what the science says. And he says, yeah, but you're pro-life because of religion. And this is something that many people on the abortion side like to do.
My anti-abortion beliefs, my pro-life beliefs is that I believe babies should be protected because they're the most vulnerable with no voice. That's where it comes
That's
from.
not the foundation. The foundation is going to be a theological one. It has to be. You're
The
religious.
foundation is
You
biology.
already said that nothing I changed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like,
But
what if we?
I'm
hold on,
sure
like, what
you're
if I
not
found
gonna
a
change your
gene? What if
mind.
I found? No, I can be.
you
changed.
can become pro-life.
I was pro-life. That's why I love you, Nathan. But that's why I have 11-year-old kids. Because when my ex-girlfriend got pregnant, I was not in favor of abortion at all. So at the time, I was pro-life. Yes.
So you would have yeeted your own child if you hold your modern
My
views
modern
now?
position, yes. I love you, Nathan.
I mean, that's for real.
Yes.
And you don't think you would have regretted that, knowing what you know now?
Absolutely not.
Whoa, hold on. I'm tracking. You have an 11-year-old.
Yeah.
You love your 11-year-old.
I love my 11-year-old.
If you had the views you have now back 12 years ago, you would have yeeted that child and you wouldn't have regretted it.
I wouldn't have been yeeting the 11-year-old child I have now.
But
It would have
that-
been a fetus, right?
Yes, you would have. Because once that unique individual is created at conception, that unique individual can never be created again. That unique strand of DNA is never created again. Never existed before, will never exist again. So you literally would be yeeting your 11-year-old child. He's just not 11 years old yet. But you can't just go have him at a later date. It would be a completely different child.
No, but because he grew into an 11-year-old child that
But he
you love
wouldn't
and
have
talk
grown
to.
into the 11-year-old child. It's an incomprehensible question, right?
It's not an incomprehensible. He's literally here. He's here with you.
But
you
he
love
wouldn't
him.
have been 12 years ago when she was pregnant. That's the whole
Right,
point.
right. But now he's here, and you're saying if you held your position now, you would have
Yeah.
been pro ending that child's life.
It wouldn't have been a child's life I was ending, right?
But it is. It is a child's
It might
life.
have been saying maybe back then I
Okay.
would have been pro condoms.
When
It
are
would have
you-
been the exact same outcome.
No, it's not the same outcome because the DNA strand wouldn't have been formed. It just wouldn't have came into existence. The sperm wouldn't have met the egg and attached to the uterus and fully formed into a baby. That part would have never happened if you were wearing a condom. It's not the same as creating the child and then discarding the child.
Right?
What
Well,
do you-
you wouldn't be asking me like, well, would you be pro condoms, knowing then that you wouldn't have your beautiful 11-year-old child today? Yeah, I'd be pro
No,
condoms.
condoms is different because it's a barrier.
I don't think
that's
so. It's not to
different
me.
than
But it's
latching
not to me.
an egg, latching and ripping it out. Now, was there ever a time where you'd have a hard cutoff for abortion?
Yeah, I have
are
a
you
hard cutoff
complete-
right now. It's
what
around
is-
20 weeks.
20 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you looked at a 20-week-old fetus inside?
I don't care what it looks like. I don't determine my morality based on how things look.
Why not?
It's such a terrible argument. He's basically saying he don't want to look.
Because that's not a good answer for me. What does it look like?
Okay.
If a baby, no offense, babies look fucking hideous when they're born, but I don't think you should be able to born a baby at 8 months.
Okay. So you're cut off at
Again,
8
I love you, Nathan.
You're cut off at 8 months. You're cut off at
No. I'm cut off at about 20 weeks.
20 weeks. Why 20 weeks?
Because I think 20 weeks, because my definition for what is a human life worth considering is when is there the potential to deploy a conscious experience?
Well, what about 19 weeks and 6 days? What about 19 weeks, 6 days, and 23 hours? What's the difference? How is the baby valuable at 20 weeks and not 19 weeks and 6 days?
Because when we talk about harm or suffering or avoiding harm, we're usually talking about a person that has an experience that knows what it's like to suffer, and that's what we ought to avoid. So fetuses don't seem to have all of the brain parts and the communication between the brain parts in place until around 20 to 24 weeks. So once that happens, once that experience exists, now there's something to speak about that's being harmed, and I would want to avoid harming that thing.
Would you let that flesh out to us logically?
Yo, Adam 22 is just sitting back like,
Conclusion: if someone is laid in a vegetative state, do we have the desire to just unplug it?
Yeah, and we
feel like
do. We do that.
Yeah,
If somebody's
but
brain dead,
against
yes.
power of attorney and against someone's will.
Power of attorney gets complicated because we're not talking about whether or not that person is like a person worth considering or whatever. At that point, we're talking about like another person who's been vested power by the state to make decisions on behalf of that person.
Okay, what if someone's asleep?
No, because they still have the potential to deploy consciousness. You can wake them up. You can't wake up a fetus.
What if
guess what? A fetus wakes up in 9 months, has the potential to deploy consciousness.
what if you don't wake them up? What if you just yeet them and they don't know that they got yeeted?
It would be bad because
that would be bad.
Because it's a brain that already has the capability of deploying.
I think the key in what you said earlier is that it seems we don't really know a bunch about consciousness.
I know that if I wake a person up who's sleeping, they will become.
I was talking about
conscious.
the 20-week cutoff. We don't know much about consciousness.
No, but we
or
can
when
measure it
becomes.
about as well as we can
Yeah.
in the.
A 20-week fetus doesn't have as much consciousness as a 30-week fetus. Doesn't have as much consciousness as a
Well,
one-year-old.
no, but it
as a
begins to
3-year-old.
have the experience of knowing what it's like to be something. They begin to have that awareness.
You know what interests me about this whole personhood argument? This is that's what essentially this is when does a fetus become a person? You know, and you always hear this, well, we don't really know when a fetus becomes a person. So, you know, that means we can abort it whenever. Why do we err on the side of aborting a fetus because we don't know if it's a person instead of erring on the side of, okay, look guys, we don't know if this is a person yet, so let's not abort it just in case we are actually aborting a person. It's never in that direction. It's always in the direction of, oh yeah, well, we don't know, so, you know, hey man, go for it. As long as like your conscience is clear from the guilt of maybe murdering a person, right?
Uh-huh.
But
So
at 2 weeks, they
consciousness
don't.
is
At
the
4 weeks, they
only
don't.
way you would cut off.
That's why. Yeah,
anyone
because that's
getting
when we decide when people
yeah.
are dead is consciousness.
Yeah, I think that's an incoherent position.
Okay.
Okay, there we go. We solved it.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, at the end of the day, my position can be moved because I'm open to reasonable arguments, but your position is unmovable because you're religious. That's the issue with having any more.
I'm saying
debate with
my
a religious
position has
person.
been moved multiple times.
No, it's once it was caught by the religious gravity well, now it's sunk into the religious black hole, and there's no more. It's thought terminating. You're done
That's
thinking
not true. There's Christians that I would strongly disagree with them that hold a pro-choice position or say, you know, a 20-week cutoff, a 12-week cutoff, a 10-week cutoff. I think they're wrong.
Sure, you
but
can
they
say
hold
that now, but
view.
earlier when I asked you, is there anything that can move your
Yeah,
position? You said no.
and why did I say no?
Because you're
I said because
religious.
I've had both positions. I've been walking with Jesus for 20 years. I've thought through this. I voted for Obama in 2008 and 2012, thinking this through, thinking, oh, he's a pro-choice, and I wouldn't vote like that now, right? And I changed my position on this because I was wrong.
I don't think there should ever be a particular thought where you're like, nothing could change my mind on that.
Well, I would just ask you, would I be able to change your mind on that? All right, guys. God bless. I'll see you on the next one. Shout out to Ruslan for really holding it down through that whole entire podcast. I highly suggest you guys go watch the whole entire thing. He dropped the gospel in there. He did some great apologetics work. He didn't allow himself to get pulled down, like the atheist rabbit holes. And I watched about like 90% of it, so I don't know what happened like at the end, but from everything I saw, he absolutely killed it. All right, guys, God bless. I'll see you on the next one.